Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Elijah and I'm here today with a very special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. I'm the Leaguie. For those of you who don't know me, I run a YouTube channel. Yeah, I'm very, very honored to have been invited to be part of this. It's my first ever podcast. So I'm looking forward to it.
Round five was a very strange round in terms of my tips at least. I got 4 out of 8. Yeah, as I was speaking to Dylan a few days ago, I feel like the better you get in tipping shows how less you know about rugby league. I think he summed it up perfectly. It's been a very weird competition, to say the least, with 4 or 5 upsets happening at least every single week. Um, but yeah, let's jump straight into it without further ado. So first game, the Dolphins up against the Penrith Panthers. Now, Dylan, what were your thoughts on the Penrith Panthers shocking loss against the North Queensland Cowboys?
Yeah, well, it was a game I actually went to with a mate who's a Cowboys fan. He was overjoyed at the result, but yeah, look, I was a bit surprised. I know that they've got a heap of new combinations, especially in the back line, but their attack in the second half, they didn't register points, and at times looked so stagnant. It's not what we're used to seeing from Penrith. So they'll really want to bounce back in a big way, I reckon, against these Dolphins. What did you think?
Yeah, I think the obvious thing, and I'm gonna point out the obvious, but the obvious is the defense. Now, the last year, if I get my stats correctly, off the top of my head, I think they conceded maybe an average of 11 or 12 points per game last year. Now, compared to this year, that's increased by almost 20 at about 29, 30 points per game. Now, obviously, that's a drastic increase. And I think that I think people underestimate the loss of, you know, likes like James Fisher-Harris, Jerome Luai. I think at what point do you realize, they've lost so many players, surely they can't do it again. Now, we've said this the past few years, and they just keep winning. Now, I could be completely wrong. I just don't see Penrith, you know, going far. Now, they'll make the finals. I have no doubt about that. I don't care what the ladder says. I don't care if they're the 17th, if they're 14th. I don't care where they are. They'll make the finals. But then do you actually see them as a genuine premiership, threat or contender this year?
Look, for the moment, I still do. I rate Nathan Cleary very, very highly. It's hard for me to see, I think, a team with current Nathan Cleary not finishing top four, but you're 100% right in that the guys that they've brought in, young guys to replace the outgoing Fisher Harris, Luai Taruva, they don't quite seem to be the same quality as, back in the day when they'd bring in like, May, for example. And we saw all these guys, Tungo, for example, to replace Burton coming through really high quality players. That doesn't seem to be the case. And it's really the first time they're going to have to deal with that challenge, I think.
Yeah, I think last year it seemed like when Cleary was out, Penrith still did decently well. I'm not sure about the exact stats, but I feel like because when they had Luai running the ship, I don't know. I just feel like there was still a reliable team. Now without Luai, they just even with Cleary in the squad in the team, without Luai, they just look like a complete mess of a team. And I've seen people say, you're obviously Cleary is the better player, but in terms of pure impact, you could argue, I'm not saying there is, but you could argue that Luai has a bigger impact on this Penrith team than Nathan Cleary does. Because as you've seen, and in all teams in general, like you see with Tigers, the impact that Jerome Luai has made. Without the Tigers, without Luai, they got humbled by the Brisbane Broncos. So I think Jerome Luai, I think that really shows a lot about him and about him as a player, the impact he can bring to a team. And I think it is a worrying sign because Jack Cole, albeit he's young, but I just don't see him as as I said, I know he's young, but I don't have that same trust in him that I do
Yeah.
with Luai. I'm not quite sure.
No, it's fair. And I mean, I don't think Cole was the plan. It was always
Yeah,
Blaze Talangi, who
yeah,
we've seen named in this game, which I think is particularly exciting. But obviously, he hasn't hit the ground running in the way that they thought that he would. And they have suffered the effects of that. I'm really happy to see people starting to appreciate what Jerome Luai did, because I feel like for the last 4 years I was telling everyone, nah, he's a really good player when
Yeah.
people are telling me he's just carried by Cleary. So that's good. Yeah, I agree.
Um, Now on the other end of the spectrum, the Dolphins with a massive win over the Gold Coast Titans. Now, Dylan, one thing I noticed about the Dolphins are they're a very confusing team. Now, one week they could get destroyed by 15, the other week they could win by 50. That well, it was the same theme as last year. I remember round one they got destroyed by the Cowboys, and round two they beat the Dragons and held them scoreless. So they they are very a confusing team. But what were your thoughts on the game against the Titans?
Yeah, there's a few teams that like that consistency this year, aren't there? I think it was really good, really solid win against the Titans side who were high on confidence, after beating the Roosters the week before. So I was pleasantly surprised. I definitely didn't think that they would win, but one guy who I think was outstanding in that game, and he's one that I want to watch in this one, was Isaiah Katoa, because
Oh
he
yes,
ran for more meters than any other Dolphin that night. He was outstanding, and now up against Nathan Cleary, he's obviously formerly in the Penrith system. It's one to keep an eye on for sure.
yes. Um, okay. In terms of predictions, this match, where do you see this game heading?
Look, I do. I know Penrith have lost four in a row, and I know last week was supposed to be their bounce back week. I just I think this game is so important for them. I think if they lose it, all of a sudden the way that they're perceived in this competition, teams that come up against them are just that much less afraid. I think they will really have such a point to prove, and they'll get the job done. My score prediction, I've got is Dolphins 14, Panthers 30. How about you?
Me. My prediction. See, this game, I just feel like last week, I just thought Panthers surely they win and they lost. Now I could 100% see Dolphins winning. I just think surely, surely five in a row is just too much. So for that reasoning, I've got the oh, I'm gonna go Panthers. Now, in terms of score prediction, let me just get it up. Okay, I'm gonna go Panthers 26, Dolphins 16. I think similar to your score, I think Dolphins will hang in there. I think they'll play a lot better that they have in the first few rounds and similar to what they did last round. But ultimately, I just don't see Panthers losing once again. I just think the likes of Edwards, I think Edwards is a big in, 100%. I think Dane Laurie has been good, but Dylan Edwards is arguably more impactful to a team than Nathan Cleary. Um, and so, yeah, for that reasoning, I'm going to have to say Panthers 26 to 16. Now, in terms of try scorers, if you had to pick one try scorer from each team, who would you put your money on?
Yeah, so I think last week Nathan Cleary in particular, sometimes in attack, didn't look like he really knew what to do. He was looking for other options, and I think he's going to want to put that right. So I've got Nathan Cleary as a predicted try scorer for Penrith.
Ooh.
As for Dolphins, yeah, it's a bit more of a tough one. But one of my favorite players in the whole league, Max Plath, starting at lock. I don't think I can go past him.
Yeah, he is a beast. And for anyone looking to do fantasy, I recommend him as a buy. He is an absolute gun, and I think he's very. People underrate him very much. People don't. They'll look at this the team list and just scroll past that name very nonchalantly. But honestly, he is a very very good player. And he's eligible for Origin, isn't he? What am I saying?
He's a Queenslander, which hurts me
Queenslander.
very much as a New South Welshman.
So keep your eye on him because I think he's gonna make Origin this year. I really do. I think Max Plath. I think Queen. That's exactly what Queensland need. You know the hard hitting lock, and
Yeah.
so but yeah, I think Panthers 26, Dolphins 16. Now the next game, two disappointing sides to say the least in round five. the St. George Illawarra Dragons, my team, up against the Gold Coast Titans. Now, I'm just going to go on about a 5 minute rant about the Dragons. Now, I said this after the Storm game. I said to my friends, I said to my family, this is the most St. George thing to do. To beat the Melbourne Storm, who was first in the ladder, only to lose to the last place Parramatta Eels. I said, keep your eye on it. I did tip Dragons, but all along, I had the worst feeling in my stomach. I said, Parramatta are going to win this game. And I even said, right before the game, to my family, I said, what's Zach Lomax kick a field goal against us? Knowing just it would go over my head. But what ended up happening, the one of the players that I just don't respect, him and Ben Hahn, I'm sorry, but I just, after what they did, put the Dragons through, they can't owe my respect. And after what they put through the Dragons, what they put the Dragons through last year, he basically made it 10,000 times worse and put the Dragons through one of the worst losses, in my opinion, over the last few years, just because we haven't beat Parramatta since 2021, which is an insane stat, considering Parramatta since then, okay, they made the grand final, but 2023 and 2024 was shocking. So I caught it. I said this is the most Dragons thing to do. And right when you needed him the most, um, right when you needed the forward to step on the field and make a good impact, Flanagan puts on Blake Laurie. Now I checked the team list today, and let's just see who's in the team. Okay, let's scroll down here. Oh, okay, where's it gone? Excuse me. Okay. Sorry. Give me a second. Let's have a look at number 15 on the St. George Illawarra bench. Oh, who's that? Oh, that's right. Mr. Blake Laurie. Now, I genuinely want to ask. Shane Flanagan follows me. Now, I genuinely want to ask. No disrespect to Blake Laurie. He's a great guy. But what does he offer in a game of football? Whenever I see him step onto the pitch, he gives you the same 50 meters a game, 20 minutes, few tackles, and gets puffed out. Now, if you wanted to start the game with him and play him like 20 minutes, I would have been disappointed, but I would have been better than playing him in a close game with 20 minutes to go and just completely doing jack all. I look at the reserves. Number 22, Loco Pacific Tonga. Now, not many people might not know who he is, but he's an absolute gun. He's been compared to the likes of Payne Haas, Nelson Asafa Solomona. And I know people might say, you can't have three young guys on the bench. I'd rather have three young guys on the bench than a guy who, really offers nothing. Now, I think that kind of showed when we needed a hard hitting forward, and we didn't get that on the weekend. I think David Clemmer was a bit mid. I think Toby Cowsman was amazing. I love Toby Cowsman. Toby Cowsman is one of my favorite players. He's going to make Origin next few years. Call me biased. He is. He's going to make Origin in the next few years. And call me crazy. Call me biased. I don't care. DeBellin does his job. Sua, Lelo. We don't have a bad forward pack. Cook and Little is the best hooker, utility combination in the league. It's just, Lachlan Ilias, that kick out on the full really hurt us. Tuipulotu, some of the things he did. We didn't change anything from last game. It's just like, when are we going to learn, and when is Flanagan going to realize when he changes? So yeah, very disappointing. What were your thoughts on the Dragons last week? Now, I'll finish my rant. I'll let you talk.
Yeah, no, that was very entertaining to listen to. Didn't know there was such a dislike for Blake Laurie, but no, it's you're not wrong. He does very much offer the same thing every time as a foot soldier. He's not an impact forward. So at that moment of the game, yeah, it wasn't the right thing to bring him in. I mean, my concern with the Dragons was pretty much the same as everyone else coming into this year, that the halves pairing
Yeah.
is the weakest in the comp, and probably by a bit of a margin as well. And to have had the 20-8 lead and not manage that home, especially with the kick out on the full by Ilias, which I want to defend him for. It's one mistake, but still such a key moment. Um, Unfortunately, that showed. And if you did have a stronger halves combination, I think that's a game that you definitely win. So yeah, it was. I also kind of thought that there was a good chance Para would win it. It just felt like such a rugby league thing
Yeah.
to see happen. But they absolutely at Wollongong, they'll know like they've lost so many close games this year, and they'll know that they can't afford to lose another one. In terms of their race for the top eight, where every game matters for them.
Yeah. In terms of the Titans, I think the Titans in the same boat as the Dragons. I think they were a major disappointment. I did tip the Dolphins, but just because my tips were horrendous and I needed an upset, and so I did get that upset. Um, but Titans really shocked me at home at Seabus. They just didn't get it clicking. At one point, was it 26-0 or something similar like that? It just something wasn't there that was there against the Roosters, against the Newcastle Knights. It just very disappointing. What were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, it really surprised me as well after the confidence that I thought they would have after beating a side like the Chooks, at home. The Tino sin bin straight away probably really disrupted their kind of preparation for the game. But
And that's a big L.
it
Sorry, let me just
oh
interrupt
yeah,
you there. I just realized in the forwards, they're missing Tino, which is probably, well, it is their best forward. Um, and that is a massive out. Okay, so I just had an observation. I didn't even realize. Okay, continue.
yeah, no, he's suspended because of that high shot.
Yeah.
I actually kind of like Randall at 13, but if the choice
Mhm.
is him or Tino, you are picking Tino every day of the week as the
Yeah.
club captain. So yeah, I mean, in the same vein as the Dragons, the Titans are a side who realistically will be aiming for the bottom half of the top eight. Every single win matters, and they need to be consistently beating teams like the Dragons, for example.
Yeah.
So it's great that in round six already, I think we have games of this magnitude that at the back end of the season will have like such importance. I think it's so cool.
Oh, 100%. I'm just disappointed in terms of the Dragons. You see, you touched on it earlier. Two games where we lost, where we were leading by 12 points and lost by 1 point. And then the other game, we were in the fight, we let go of it, and we just came back too late in the game. I think in a season where this is probably going to be the most congested ladder we've seen in years, in my opinion,
Mm.
you can't lose like that. And I think that's going to end up catching up to the Dragons. And this game, they can't lose it. They really, this is must win is maybe too big of a word, but to me as a Dragons fan, it is a must win because if we go, we lost to, if we start the season 1-4, that is not acceptable for a team that is supposed to be contending for the eight. Um, but I do want to give shouts to number one, Clint Gutherson right here. As a captain and as a leader, he's provided more in a few games than Ben Hunt has did as his whole, captaincy at St. George Illawarra. He actually wants to be there. As I said, his leadership, his communication on field, it's honestly so refreshing to see. I haven't seen this since I don't know when. This leadership at the Dragons. I think Dylan Egan has been a major like surprise. Like not, I wouldn't say he surprised a lot of people, but as a rookie, what he's done in the his first two games of his NRL career, coming into a Dragon side who's trying to make the top eight, he's impressed me a lot. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna go. In terms of my tips, I'm going to go St. George Illawarra Dragons to beat the Titans. Call me biased. I just think at home, it's just such a Dragons thing. Loss, win, loss, win. It happened all of last year. I'm going to go Dragons 22, the Titans 14, with my try scorers Jaden Saw and Jojo Fafita. How about you, Dill?
Well, I've got a similar prediction. Before I get into it, I just want to echo
Yeah.
what you said about Gutherson. His last game against Para, he was so up for it. I'll read out just some of his stats quickly. He had two tries, a try assist, four line breaks, and two line break assists. Like that is
Wow.
they say Gutherson's like a 7 out of 10 player every week, but
Yeah,
that was an 8 9 out of 10 game
100%.
um, from him. My score prediction, I also went Dragons. I went 24-18. So I think there'll
Okay,
be a
so that's
converted
very
try in
similar.
it. Pretty similar.
That's
Yeah.
very similar. In terms of your try score, who you got?
I for try scorers, I tend to have just gone the players that I really like. And granted, for the Dragons, this one is a winger, but man, I love him. Christian
Oh,
Tuipulotu
I love that
is
bloke.
just his box office every week. They shouldn't have banned the
No, they
celebration,
shouldn't
the
have.
money.
And I just
It's
want to say
yeah.
something to all the people so rattled and salty about he's shown me the money celebration down 18 against the guys. Can I just say that teams need more Christian Tuipulotus? He brings the energy that he's a fan favorite to any team he goes to. People who like if you're up by 18, you shouldn't even be upset in the first place. Like the fact that teams are rattled by him doing that, like he can't control the match. Like if they lose, all right, it's probably not a good look considering that every single time he celebrated, we've lost the game. Um, but that's just him as a character. Like I don't think you can fault him for that. I honestly really like how he gets into the fans. I don't know. I just
Uh, yeah, no, for sure. And that clip of him doing that celebration, like that's going to be used in Fox promos for years. Like every edit that a YouTuber makes,
yeah,
that's it brings so much eyes to the game, and I hate that we kind of get rid of that stuff, you know.
100%. For the Titans, who's your try scorer?
So I it's sort of known among my fans. I actually grew up in the Netherlands. I was very
Mm,
involved with the Netherlands Rugby League. And my boy Jalen de Groot,
mm.
Netherlands eligible. I could not look past that. The fullback. He was wrongfully, I think, denied a try against the Dolphins for an obstruction. So I think he'll get one on the board this week.
Yeah, no, that's a great tip. Okay, now to the game where I'm not looking forward to just because I think it's going to be a cricket score. The Broncos up against the Roosters. Now, actually, I revoke what I said because I just remembered. I honestly think this is going to contradict what I just said, but I honestly think Roosters could upset this game. Now, I'm not going to tip them. I'm not tipping the Roosters in 2025. That's a illogical thing to do. But I definitely think though I think they're going to improve this game. But I think it's got in the first half at least. The second half, Broncos are going to destroy them. I, there's not much light to the end of the tunnel for East fans, honestly. Well, how did you rate their performance against the Rabbits last week?
Yeah, so it was the game after Panthers Cowboys, which
Yeah.
I went to, and I was getting the train back home. The train stopped at Leaguie, and I was like, I'm 10 minutes away from Olympic Park. I'll go for the second half.
Yeah.
So the first half of their game, admittedly, I didn't see.
Yeah.
I heard their goal line defense was really really good though. That's what
Yeah.
the stats showed. But I watched the second half next to Hainsey, who is just an absolute character. So my my perception of that second half is probably a bit tinted towards the Roosters' direction. Um, but in terms of their second half performance, I think Souths had like two opportunities to score, two attacking opportunities, and they got both of them. And that is concerning from a Roosters perspective that they couldn't deliver a performance for the full 80 minutes and close out that game that I think, as is a theme with them this year, was really there for them to win. Those are sort of my thoughts.
Yeah. I think with the Roosters, they definitely showed lots of not well, I would say hard. I think they showed improvements, considering like if you're comparing to what they have previously. But I think that's just because maybe up against their biggest rival. I think you're no matter where they are on the ladder, I feel like it's always going to be an entertaining game. Um, just simple errors and mistakes and lapses in judgment that I haven't seen from the Roosters in even 2016 that horrid year. I didn't even see then. Like you're gonna have to go back to maybe 2009 in the wooden spoon season. Honestly, like the last time I've seen them so disconnected, um, in terms of players and yeah. So yeah, just very disappointed with them. Like in general. Um, the Broncos, on the other hand, I've been very impressed with. Now, they did lose to the Raiders, and I'm not 100% sure, 100% sold on them, but I think they'll make it to the prelim finals. I think they will make it to the prelim finals, and they're still gelling. They still have whenever you have a new halves combination, it will take a little bit just to get the full grasp of the team. But that win against the Tigers, it was a bit shaky at one point. I gotta admit. I think at one point the Tigers were leading 3-1. I'm not going to say the score because it was 12-6. Apicores I couldn't kick. So it makes it look like it's 2 tries. But at one point they were leading by 2 tries. And at one point you start to think, well, this is very unlike Brisbane. But then they just turned it up, you know. And as a team, I was very impressed. I'm just going to get up the stats quickly. Um, I was very impressed with the forwards. I think the forwards were. I wouldn't just say it for Brisbane. I feel like with every team, forwards determine if you win a football game, and the backs determine how much you win by. And I think that was the perfect, summary for this game. In terms of players, I was a really mm, I was a really big fan of Xavier Wilson this game. He was amazing. Also liked like Selwyn Cobbo. Pat Carrigan does it every week. He's amazing. He does it every week. Um, but yeah, I was very impressed by Brisbane. What were your thoughts, Dill?
Yeah, Carrigan shout out. I love that. He, as you say, he just delivers week in, week out.
Yeah,
Yeah, in terms of their overall performance, the first half was certainly a surprise. I thought that they would start a lot faster than they did.
yeah,
And the Tigers really did, yeah, dominate. I think they did well to hold in though, and that was the key thing. And in the end, go into the halftime break, I believe, leading 14-12, which at the time was a bit like, geez, how have they got in this position? But they hung in there, and then second half just went on with it. Their attack was right back where we know it can be, where it needs to be. Um, and while consistency has been sort of the concern for them so far this year, I am pretty high on Brisbane. Under Michael Maguire, they seem to be a much more well drilled side. And yeah, I look, I do think they'll do very well and continue in this game.
yeah. In terms of the Roosters, Chad Townsend has been dropped. I think it is the right decision. Um, Hugo Savala, if that's how you pronounce it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Um,
Yeah, nah, Savala.
he's been very solid, I think, as a rookie. He's done his job. I cannot believe he's a halfback. Genuinely, his build looks like he could play, 8 to 13.
Yeah,
Genuinely,
well, it actually, sorry to interrupt you, but it
yeah.
actually reminds me of another older Roosters half from back in the day, back when Ryan Madison was the
Oh
starting 5'8"
yes,
for the
actually
Roosters.
yes, it does.
It's
It does.
exactly like that.
Exactly. Even the way he plays, I feel like it's Ryan Madison, 5'8" at Roosters 2016 is X. I can't talk. Esque. Um, but in terms of this game, I'm gonna go Brisbane. As I said, I think Roosters will turn up the first half, but they can't. They've shown all year they can't maintain it for 80 minutes. Actually, they did against Panthers, but yeah, I just I don't want to use the word fluke, but I just think those wins are very hard to come by. I just don't see the Roosters doing the same thing that they did. I think it's going to be kind of a round one, you know, rematch of the game that kind of had against these two teams because the first time they matched up, the Roosters the Roosters started off well and then they completely, you know, just completely crumbled. So for this game, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Brisbane 36, Roosters 18 with my try scorers, Corey Pakes and Robert Toyer. What about you?
Yeah, that when they had against Penrith, I mean, it was a game where literally everything came off for them, and they were trying some pretty extravagant attack.
Yeah,
And I think the weeks since then have proven that that style won't always work. I think it will be quite similar. We've gone again similar scorelines. I think it will be like round one, but
yeah,
the Roosters being up for a bit of revenge will keep it a little bit closer than that round one scoreline. I went with Broncos 38, Roosters 12. So we are thinking very much sort of the
Yeah,
same lines.
great minds.
For for my try scorers, I've gone a little bit rogue, but I've gone for a bold prediction here.
Ooh, another good
I've
one.
gone with a player who he only has 4 tries in his career,
Oh,
but we mentioned him earlier, Patrick Carrigan.
yeah,
His his first ever NRL try was against the Roosters, and
yeah, it
I
was.
was just sitting down. I thought I can picture this. I can picture it happening. And on the Chook side of things, yeah, an interesting thing in terms of the way that they've been named. I think Dominic Young will be dropped later in the week. That's what the
Yeah,
rumors are. Nwanga Nitawasa is being named in spot number 18, and I think him coming onto the wing, he's a really, really talented player. So I back him probably to be the try scorer on the Roosters side of things.
for the next game, Saturday, 3 p.m. in Perth, the Cronulla Sharks up against the Manly Sea Eagles. Now, Dylan, the Sharks, a heartbreaking loss to the Canberra Raiders at the death when you just thought Sharks might scrape away with the gritty victory. They snatch it from the jaws of the defeat the Raiders. And for the Sharks, for a team that really didn't lose much last year and got Adam Fanua-Blake, they have kind of shocked me, not in a negative way, but I just thought they would do better than they are. You know, losing against Bulldogs at home without Burden and Kikau, and then losing to the Raiders, who aren't like they're good, but they're very inconsistent. It's worrying signs in Cronulla. What are
It
your
is. It is. And I mean, I predicted them to finish really high. From memory, my ladder prediction had them in second.
Me too.
Um, and yeah, for the first time so far this season, I've got genuine concerns about their credentials
Yeah,
as an actual premiership threat. I mean, look, yes, it was the circumstances of that loss, I think, are important because if not for that miracle try, we're probably looking at them, having gone down to Canberra against a good gritty side and having got a pretty gritty win. But the fact is, it's 2 competition points that they let go, and they've done that so many times over the last few years, really. So this game, in terms of from both Cronulla side and a Manly side, it's so important to me. This is easily, I think, the game of the round and the one I'll be watching the closest.
100%. Now, in Manly's point of view, it didn't shock me in terms of scoreline. I thought Storm were going to bounce back after that victory against the Dragons, but it shocked me the way they lost at home. They weren't in the game. They just didn't seem, to click. What were your thoughts on that game against Melbourne?
Yeah, well, look, a few consolation tries at the end after Melbourne had mentally checked out, I think really flatter Seagulls on the scoreline of this one because, well, of that one, sorry, because they weren't in it at all. Yes, I also would have tipped the Storm, and Jerome Hughes, especially being a late inclusion, was massive. He had a hell of a game, particularly with his running game. But yeah, it was. I expected them to put up a lot more of a fight. Manly are a side who I predicted to finish fourth. So it's similar to the Sharks in that they just can't really afford to be delivering those kinds of performances on the kind of basis that they are so far this year. So they've got such a point to prove in this one against another side who will fancy themselves for top four. It's a huge, huge test.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I was looking at my ladder prediction yesterday, just after a few rounds to see where I'm at. Now, my top four were Melbourne first, Sharks second, Panthers third, and Manly fourth. Now,
Same as me.
say great minds think alike. That's what I've noticed throughout this podcast. Now, three of those sides have. No, I wouldn't say Manly haven't lived up because Manly, don't get it twisted, Manly have been good. It's just you can't overlook this game like it was nothing because I know it's Storm. Storm is Storm. That very rarely do they lose two in a row. But to go, as I said, to go out the way that they did, at home, it just wasn't good enough. I think lots of players were disappointing in that match. I think oh, this game, man, I've been tossing and turning for the last couple of days, and I only, you know, finalized my tip as the team list came out a couple of hours ago. Now, in a thriller, see, even now, there's no guarantee win here. There isn't because these teams are very similar, I guess, in terms of this game, man. Um, I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with Sharks 20-18 in a very I'm even regretting it now because I could see Manly bouncing back. Oh, see, you can't even take home ground into consideration because they're playing at a neutral venue. Um, I'm actually saying this with the least amount of confidence because I have no confidence in the Sharks. But Sharks for a bounce back victory against Manly. What were your thoughts?
I swear, guys, for those of you listening, we have not like shared our tips before doing this because again, it's pretty similar. I did just before getting into my tip, I want to say for this game, looking at Manly last week, particularly the forward rotation that they started, going into a game in 2025 with a rotation of Siwa Talkiaho, Toff Sipley, Jez Tavanga, and Jake Trbojevic, you're just not going to set the platform early. You're not going to
Yeah.
set the standard. And against Adam Fanua Blake, that's a whole big issue. He's not going to allow that to happen. They've got Josh Aloye back. But that is where the concern is for me. I do think Cronulla will get up in this one. Um, Scoreline that I went with in the end. Let me just have a look here. Here we go. Score prediction was Sharks 24, Sea Eagles 20. So again, very similar to what you've
Very,
got.
very similar, prediction. In terms of try scorers, I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with safe bets just because I said this game is gonna be the game of the round in my opinion. And I just think just I can't take any bold predictions, bold try scorers in this game because there might not be many tries. It might just be a defensive gritty win for either side. So I'm just gonna go with safe bets of Harodi, and for Manly, I'm gonna go Garrick. Just simple, safe bets. That I can't risk it. What about you?
Interesting you've gone Herodi, and in my community on my live streams in particular, we call him Mr. Turtleneck because I used to work in a clothes shop in the Shire, and once in the middle of summer, it was like 40 degrees outside. He comes into the store and asks me if we sell turtlenecks, and I'm like, bro, what do you possibly want with one of those in this kind of weather? So yeah, loves the turtleneck Moene. Um, for Cronulla, I mean, I've gone with Teague Wilton, back rower. He can find a try, not quite as much as Nikora. I think Nikora takes a lot of the spotlight off him, but Wilton on his return in this one, I think he'll find the line, and it's also purely because in that clothes shop I once sold him a suit, so I've also got a lot of Teague Wilton bias. Um, there. Then on the Manly side of the equation, a young winger who I'm a really big fan of so far, and I think he was a bright spark, especially at the end of the game against Melbourne. Clayton Faulalo. Yeah,
Mm.
it's a tough back line to break into at Manly. Tommy Talau, isn't even in that starting side. Probably when Jake Trbojevic is back. Sorry, when Tom Trbojevic is back, if you struggle to find a spot for maybe Tolatau Kola even. Um, but yeah, I think he's a really really good young player, and yeah, I reckon he'll get a try in this one.
Yeah, too easy. Now, the next game on Super Saturday. This game is also a very hard game to tip, in my opinion. The Rabbitohs up against the Cowboys. Now, the Rabbitohs, I look at the ladder and genuinely, no disrespect to the Rabbitohs, but I cannot believe they have 4 wins. Because I feel like no disrespect to them, but in those matches, they just somehow get the victory. And like when they seem out of it, or that even haven't been playing that well, they just somehow get the wins. It showed against I think Roosters in times they didn't look great, but it's Roosters. And against the Dragons, I thought for all money, I was at that game. I thought for all money, Dragons were going to win when they go up by 12. And no, the Dragons just completely crumble like the St. George way. Um, but Rabbitohs, I mean, it kind of shows. My friend that's a Rabbitoh supporter, he summed it up perfectly. He says, "We don't win these games last year," and I agree. I don't think they win these games last year, and I think that shows the improvement. It shows no matter how bad they play, they just somehow get the gritty victory. Now on the Cowboys, momentum is building with them on the back of three straight losses to start the year. I was very concerned. I was genuinely rethinking my ladder predictions of having him in ninth and like potentially putting them wooden spooners. But to their credit, they haven't impressed me. They have impressed me these last couple of weeks. Against the Raiders, they impressed me, and against Panthers, they very much impressed me. Now, oh, yeah, what were your thoughts on these two teams in the last round? We'll start with Rabbits.
Yeah, I think everything that you've said is completely correct. The Rabbitohs definitely would have struggled to get wins like that last year. Jamie Humphries, in particular, has been a revelation to start this year that I certainly didn't see coming. I was a big Lewis Dodd fan. But obviously, they did it last week in the second half, especially without him. And I have to go without him in this one. That halves combination is what I'm looking at. Latrell Mitchell, Jaden Sullivan. Latrell at 6 is just a prospect that I love. I like that they've rolled the dice and gone with him there instead of Jack Whiten, because I
Yeah.
remember like back in the day, back in the Sydney Roosters days,
Yeah, yeah,
Latrell played a couple of games at 6 and he was just so good, so effective there. I think Souths may struggle just with the number of outs that they have. But a couple, Latrell's now back. Ewan Aitken is back for this one for his club debut. There's some reason to be optimistic in there for them.
definitely.
Then, yeah, I guess Cowboys side as well. Momentum definitely building. I mean, to start the season, I was massively concerned with what they were delivering. I thought it was well below the standards they were capable of. But their defense last week in the second half, especially against Penrith, was so solid. It felt like they were stuck on that goal line for so long. And even when Reece Robson had a sin bin in the first half, they won that period 6-0,
Yeah,
which is just, it shows so much ticker.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I completely agree in that these two sides are quite similarly matched. And with the number of wins that they're starting to rack up, they may have sights on, close to the top end of the table, and these are the games they have to be winning if they want to get there.
yeah. I agree. Now, you're optimistic about this house pairing. Now, I'm. This could either go really good or really bad, in my opinion, because as I said, I just feel like the obvious choice is to put Jack Wyden at 6, considering he won Dally M there, and he is a very good 5A. As you said perfectly, in the Roosters, the few games that he did play, then he's amazing. But there's been some questions over his fitness, his health. So I'm not sure. Well, he's been playing fullback, so I can't really talk about fitness and health. But
I don't disagree. If I was Wayne Bennett, I would 100% be putting Jack Whiten at 6. But as a NRL content
yeah,
creator and someone that just loves watching the game, Latrell at 6 excites me.
yeah, no, he's very Latrell is a very strike power player. I think he's going to do well there. In terms of predictions, I'll let you go first for this one. Who do you have winning this?
Yeah, I think I'm sensing potentially we've gone different ways on this, but I'm not too sure. I have gone with North Queensland, just because, as I said, I think South may struggle to adjust to all of the outs that they have. Yeah, as I mentioned, they do have guys coming back, but those halves is a pretty key thing. That combination between Humphries and Walker. So I have gone with Rabbitohs 16, but Cowboys to get 28 and win the game. How about you?
Now, we have not planned this, as I said, but this is actually insane. I've gone Cowboys. Now, the scoreline, you did put Cowboys in a bit more convincing manner. compared to what I put in another thriller. I think on the back of a 2 point victory for the Sharks, I think it's going to be another 2 point victory for the Cowboys. I'm going to go the Cowboys 24, Rabbitohs 22. I think Rabbitohs, as you said, I think the Trolls are going to do well in this match. I really like Ewan Aiken in the center position. I really do like him. But I just think the Cowboys have. I'm just looking at the team list. I think Robson, Drinkwater, Talangi, Dearden. I think Clifford's impressed me the last few games. Clifford. I think I just thank you to. No, I want to say thank you to Todd Payton for finally putting Clifford in instead of Duffy is a young player, okay, but I always questioned why they didn't start with Clifford because I feel like last year when Clifford played, he was decent. It wasn't bad, and I know like he's young and all that, but I really like number 7 right here. Now, in terms of my try scorers, I'm gonna go the man on club debut for South Sydney. I'm gonna go Ewan Aiken. As I said, I'm a really big fan of him. In terms of the Cowboys, I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with a safe bet just because I said it's a close game. No bold predictions. I want to go Murray Towell with the line. What about you?
That's very fair. Those are some good picks. For my try scorers, it's hard to look past, I think, Latrell Mitchell at the 6. He's a very, very good ball player, but I can just see him breaking through that line for a 5'8". Breaking through that line for a try at 5'8" when everyone else is looking at the guys he might be passing to.
Yeah.
And then on the Cowboys side of things, look, the NRL recently had Justin Olam retire, PNG national hero. We need another PNG hero. And I think the next man up is my boy, Robert Darby, there on the wing. He's had a bit of a wait to get into first grade. He's been a bit of a reserve grade star for some time, but love the electricity he delivers on the wing. He was chased down in a line break last week, and I think he'll be looking to definitely get across the line to make up for that. So Darby's my pick.
Yeah. Okay. This game also, I think it's going to be a very good game. Far out. There's some great matches this round. May I say there are especially this Saturday. I'm not taking my eyes off the TV for this entire Saturday. I think all 3 games are going to be absolute thrillers. Parramatta
Yeah,
Eels up against Canberra.
100%. Sorry to interrupt, but
No,
like
no.
just the thing with everyone being so inconsistent this year, it means it's so hard to pick, and it just makes some box office television.
100%. Now me and Dylan have picked the same teams up until now, but like, don't get it twisted. We might get all of them wrong. Like in this competition, we could very much well get all of these wrong because genuinely, as you said, who would have picked the Roosters to beat Panthers? Who would have picked the Dragons to beat Melbourne? There's so many upsets this year so far. The Roosters could shock Broncos this week. It would not surprise me. But in terms of this match, both sides winning at the buzzer. Parramatta getting that comeback victory over my Dragons. In Canberra, getting that comeback victory over Cronulla. Now, what were your thoughts on Parramatta last week against the Dragons?
Yeah, well, in general, I think Para have improved week on week. They started from a pretty low base, right? So it's not that difficult to improve, but the vision is there. They are coming together, and I thought last week was a really solid performance. I wasn't too sure what they were doing with their hooker rotation, with Hopgood in there at times, but I love Riley Smith and his name to start this week. That does particularly excite me, but I agree 100% in that, like, this one is one that could go either way. Who knows which Parramatta side is going to show up?
Yeah, I think Riley Smith, maybe it's just because of the headgear, but he reminds me a lot of Reid Marnie.
For sure. Yeah.
Tackling, he's kind not grubbiness, but he's kind of got that something about him, you know. But ooh, this game is very hard to tip. Actually, I forgot to talk about the Raiders. Let me just talk on the
Yeah.
Raiders. The Raiders What a win! We just talked about the Sharks and you know, their the disappointment, but we should talk about the Raiders and how for game like for the Warriors game and for Brisbane game and for this game, they have been amazing. Genuinely. See, the thing about the Raiders, when they're amazing, they're amazing. When they aren't, they really aren't. So it's you know, I really did like them against the Sharks. It worried me a bit, in that middle part of the game. I was a bit concerned. When Sharks went up late in that game, I just thought, okay, Sharks should run away with this. I was getting ready to put my score summary up of Sharks winning it, and then next thing I see, you know, they threw and they score basically on the bell. Um, Unbelievable victory. What were your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, it epitomized something that I've said about the Raiders for such a long period of time. I mean, I do live in Canberra, right? So I've got a lot of mates who are Raiders supporters. And I always say to them, like, you can just be so proud of your team because on paper, every season going into the season, they're like the 15th best team on paper, if that.
100%.
Sometimes they're right at the bottom, and yet year after year, they're either finishing in the finals or like two or three spots shy of the finals. And yeah, that performance against Cronulla, against a side who on paper are right up against the top of the ladder, for them to hang in there enough to have an opportunity to win and then execute it in the moment. I mean, what a try it was. It looked like it was a dead play about three or four times, but they got it done. They should be so, so proud, and they'll really carry momentum forward into this one, I reckon.
And I'll bite my tongue that I haven't got them for wooden spoon this year, but the last few years I've always got them bottom four, but they just never finish bottom four. Like
Mm-hmm.
genuine, and I think that just shows a lot about just their culture, their coach, their players. I think Ricky doesn't get enough credit for the way he impacts the games, even though he doesn't play, but he's a coach. Um, oh, this game. Hmm.
Keep in mind when you're tipping, one thing we haven't quite touched on yet. Jersey number 5, Parramatta, Zach
Oh
Lomax
my
has been named on the
days.
wing.
So
Yeah.
you're telling me the guy who cried for being put on the wing at the Dragons is so much that he wanted to leave for less money to play center? Oh, look where he is. Oh, he got what he's wanted. Oh, wow. See, I would say I'm surprised, but I'm not even surprised. I knew this was going to happen at one point. Like, genuinely, if it wasn't for that Dragons game last week, Lomax might have been already wanting out. Genuinely, like, I mean, I'm happy
You
for him.
sound
He got
absolutely
what
thrilled.
he got when I'm sure when he received the news, he was ecstatic. He was genuinely, and like I knew this was gonna happen. He signed to play center. He left to play center, and just he ends up on the wing. How happy should he be? No, honestly, like he just wanted to get at the Dragons. Like no matter where in the back line he is, as long as he's out of the Dragons, I think he's content. Honestly, I think he's. I don't think he even cares about the number on the back of his jersey. I think he just wanted to get that victory over the Dragons. Now he's just, he's winning in life at this point.
This is the Blake Laurie and Zach Lomax hate podcast. Let's wait till we
Honestly,
get talking about Ben Hunt.
I didn't even. If you one of my first posts that went viral, not viral, but it got a few tens of thousands of views. I was ranting about Billy Walters and Kevin Walters, and a few days later, Kevin Walters got sacked. And a few days later, I ranted about Ben Hunt. Um, and then a few days later, Shane Flanagan followed me, and then a day after that, Ben Hunt got told he wanted to release. So the more I talk about the players I don't know. I'm not. I'm joking, but honestly, like
Oh.
I have many.
Put together a rant about Cherry Evans. We'll finally find out where he's going next year.
Honestly, after we got to touch on him, in terms of this game, oh wow, I'm tossing and turning, man. This game. Ooh, I'm gonna go. Okay, maybe it's just because I'm biased against Parramatta. I'm gonna go Raiders 25, Eagles 24. Jamal Fogarty field goal. The week after, Eagles kicked a field goal. Raiders to kick home a gritty, high-scoring victory in Darwin. What about you, Dill?
We're going to pick a different side at some point to each other. um, I have also gone with Canberra. Um, in a similarly close one, not quite as close, I've gone Canberra 22, Parramatta 18. I do think it's going to be a really tight contest. I'm curious to see particularly the forward battle because the Raiders forward pack is so good. Can Parramatta aim up to it with what I do perceive as a bit of a weaker pack? But I think they can. I think they'll carry a fair bit of momentum from last week. And from Parramatta's perspective, like if they can get a win here, all of a sudden they are kind of starting to build something. You know, it's like we're saying about the Cowboys at the moment. They'll fall into that category. So I think this game's really huge for them. So they'll show up, and I think Raiders might just have enough quality to get it done.
Yeah. I just also want to mention on something you touched on earlier. As you said, the Eels, they lost to Storm round one. Then they lost to Tigers. But in the first half, both teams were, not that great. And then they lost to who did they lose to after? Sorry, my mind's gone blank. They lost to the Dogs. The Dogs, they showed lots of heart in that game. Then they versed Manly. Now the scoreline they did score at the end to make it look flattering, but honestly, even 26-6 early in the game, I think Eagles were in it. I just think Manly were just too good for them. And I think that's a win one game at one point. And how poetic Gutherson scoring 2 tries against his former team and Lomas kicking home the field goal. It was written in the stars. Just Parramatta getting their first victory over the Dragons. And yeah, I think it will continue as a 25-24. In terms of my try scorers, I'm going to go. Hmm. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Tom Starling for my Raiders try scorer, and for Parramatta, I'm gonna go with the man who just loves the wing so much, Zachy Lomax.
No, very fair. For my Raiders try prediction, I've gone with a guy who. So I watch a lot of Super League, and I've been talking about this guy for such a long time. Matty Nicholson.
Yeah,
He didn't start round one for Canberra, but since he's come in, he has found the try line in a big way so often. I really like what he's brought to the Raiders forward pack. So I've gone with him. And then on the Parramatta side of the equation, a guy who I think week on week we're seeing really build into his role as the games go on, Isaiah Iongi. I
yeah,
think last week was his best game in first grade so far. He had some questionable moments for sure. A rookie fullback will, but he looked way more comfortable than he has for a long time. And yeah, we might get to see a fair bit more of his running game this weekend.
yeah. Okay. Next game, Sunday, Storm versus New Zealand Warriors. Now, Warriors, they had the bye last week, but against Tigers, gritty victory. They impressed me. Tigers looking like they were gonna run away with it, but right when you thought they were, Warriors just got the victory, and they did it in a very what's the word? Just in a very Warriors fashion. I think as I said I was very impressed by um Warriors. In terms of Storm, on the other hand, Storm is what I expected. I didn't expect that much of a blowout, but I knew I lost against Dragons. They're going to bounce back against Manly, and they took whatever expectation I had and times by 1,000. They were absolutely exceptional. And you touched on it earlier when you're talking about Manly. A few consolation tries made the scoreline a bit more flattering, but ultimately that was an amazing win by Melbourne. What were your thoughts on these two teams last time they played?
Yeah, the Warriors' performance against the Tigers was one I was surprised by pleasantly. I did think that the Tigers would have enough to get up in that game, but they were really up for it physically, which was good to see, and probably need a bit of a week long rest after that performance. So them coming off the bye is a bit of an exciting prospect. And like obviously you would think Melbourne are going to win this game. I'm assuming that's the way we'll both tip. But the Warriors with that bye, it does make things a little bit more juicy. And then on the Melbourne side of the equation, yeah, God, they were good last week against, as we've said, a side who we both thought would be top four. So being back in Melbourne, I do think that they'll have enough to do the job. Maybe they won't quite score as many points. I think Warriors will be up for it, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I'm expecting big things from Melbourne.
In terms of your score prediction, I'll let you go first because I have a shocking score prediction. So I'll let you go first in terms of your score prediction.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Warriors will make enough of a game of it, particularly early on. I know they've had a bye, but they're currently sitting fourth on the ladder, which did surprise me. And I think that they've been able to find wins and hang in games pretty solidly so far this year. But Melbourne just have way too much quality, home advantage as well. I have gone with Storm 32, Warriors 14. What have you got?
Now, I actually have a similar scoreline, but as you said, Warriors have a bye, so they might have a little bit more juice in them. But I think Warriors are just going to be flat this game. I think Storm are going to take complete control over them at home. I'm going to go with Warriors 14, Melbourne 40. I think it's going to be a big scoreline. I expect Storm to go on a bit of a win streak here after that loss against St. George. Um, my try scorers, actually, I'll let you put your try scorers first.
Yeah, on the Melbourne side, it's always a bit of a storyline, isn't it, when a player
Yeah.
scores against his former club? And Elias Katoa, the
Yeah.
back rower, has been so good since making the move from New Zealand to Melbourne. I can just see it in the stars, him getting a try in this one.
Yeah.
And then the Warriors side of things, a guy who has really been in and out of first grade just through injury recently. He makes his return, Rocco Berry.
Mhm.
Love a bit of Berry. So I back him to get a try in this one.
Yeah. Now for my try scorers, I'm gonna go with the um the other second row for Melbourne. I'm gonna go with Sean Bloor. I think, as you said, is kind of what's with kind of like similar to the Sharks. I think with Britton Nakora kind of takes all the credit in the second row. I feel like so does Eli Katoa. I think Sean Bloor doesn't get enough credit. I think he's a very solid player. Um, So I'm gonna go Sean Ball. I feel like I have more, versatility in terms of my try scores just because I think it's gonna be a bit of a blowout. I don't have to go safe pick. For Warriors, I'm gonna go with Adam Pompey on the wing. Now, I'm gonna quickly do this tip because we have 3 minutes left on the Zoom call. Um, the Newcastle Knights up against the West Tigers. Now, the Knights, their defense was good the first half, but they just weren't good enough against Bulldogs. Not scoring a single point last week. Tigers, uh, we touched on it earlier, they were starting to build something against Brisbane in that first half, but they just completely crumbled. But Tigers, I think that shows. Hang on, wait, I didn't even realize. I thought Luai was out for way longer. I thought he was out
He's
for two
back.
weeks. He's back. Oh, okay. Um, okay, that kind of shocked me a little bit. What were your thoughts on these two teams?
Yeah, this is another really even one. It's one I can't wait for. We're treated to another really good Sunday game. Who knows which night side is going to show up? But
Honestly,
I think I mean, these two ties were separated by 2 points in round one. I can just think Luai being suspended last week, City at home, scheming for this game. I think I'll have something up his sleeve, but probably in a tight one, I've gone Tigers 20, Knights 16.
now I knew it was too good to be true. Our first disagreement of the video. I have gone Knights 26 to the Tigers 18. Now, as you said, I literally just looked at Luai in the side. I didn't even know he was in there. So I wrote my prediction before. I'm actually considering tipping the Tigers, but I just don't want to do it just because we're right. Like we're right for the whole video. So I'm gonna stick and just see who's right at the end. But I'm gonna go Knights in the close one. I just think at home. I think they're very disappointed about last week's performance. In terms of try scorers, I'm gonna go Bradman Best and Terrell May. What about you?
Yeah, well, I like Jerome Luai scoring on his return. I think he'll get one there. And then my boy on the wing, Kyle McCarthy, a little bit of a smoky,
Mm,
but I think I like the look of him on the wing there.
Kyle McCarthy. Yeah. Okay, and that's gonna wrap up the podcast now. Dylan, thank you so much for joining me. If you guys would like to see more of him, comment down below. Dylan, if you're down for more, maybe in the next few weeks we could do another podcast. I really enjoyed this. I think we could do definitely a lot more podcasts up our sleeve.
Yeah, I'd be happy to be back sometime. We'll sort it out.
Yeah, so thanks, guys. If you enjoyed it, make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and comment down below some video days that you would like to see. Anyway, guys, enjoy and have a good night.